Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa podcast. Welcome to our Aston Villa match preview for Villa v Brighton, 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. I am really looking forward to the game. I think it's going to be a really big tactical battle with third against sixth in the Premier League. But before we get into it, can I ask a favour? If you are new and you do enjoy our content, if you can subscribe to our channel, we are on the road now to 15,000 subscribers, which is a massive number, a number that I'd like to hit before the end of the year. So if you can help us get over that line, then it'd be highly appreciated from myself. Drop a like and comment your thoughts on this episode. So I've got a bit of a treat for you. I've got a real in-depth tactical look at how Brighton play. So if you're into your tactics and you really like tactics and you want to learn something about Brighton, then this is the episode for you. We're then going to show you the lineup that I'm going to go with for Villa v Brighton, and it is rogue. It's something different. When I go different, Unai generally goes different and picks the same lineup. So if he picks this lineup, right, let's call it now, I am on Unai's wavelength because it's rogue from me and we've not seen him do this before. So let's see if he picks it, or in other words, I haven't got a clue what I'm on about, but no, I'm only joking. But yeah, I've gone with something different, so stick with that till the end as well. And then I will give my thoughts on the Everton game at the end of this episode. I prefer to get this one done and then we can move on, and then I can just share my thoughts on Everton at the end of the episode. So a bit of a jam-packed episode for you then. So we are going to kick it off then with the tactical pad, and we're going to have a real look at how Brighton play. So Brighton and De Zerbi ball set up in a 4-2-3-1. That's their shape to start games. What happens with their shape is that their fullbacks go into midfield areas to make up a four in midfield. What we then see is a reverse 4-4-2 shape, and it inadvertently becomes a 2-4-4. The wingers offer the width, so the wingers offer the width out here, and the attacking midfielder then makes up a forward four. So the attacking midfielder will go into this advanced area here, and then you can see Brighton's shape looks into that 2-4-4-4. Their back line is their main attributes that make a box midfield with the two in the double pivot area. So they are playing with a pivot in central midfield, and then their two centre-backs split to make up that two, with their full-backs going into the wide areas in midfield. This box midfield here is a real massive area for Brighton. This is one of their strongest areas in this midfield defensive area here. This is where they look to set their traps. They look to do all of their build-up work, and they really want the opposition to press their two, and then they will play in these areas here, these patterns, these zigzag shapes with their box midfield area. They want to set traps, and they want the opposition to press high. They want the opposition players to come and press the two defenders, Dunk or Webster, and then that press has been made, and then they can look to find the spare man. They play with angles and vertically, so the balls are going during angles, and then they'll look for these vertical balls out into these wide areas as well. Now, one interesting point about Brighton as well is with their style of play is that their keeper is heavily involved in all of their play. The keeper actively is an outfield player. What that enables them to have is always to have an 11v10. They are always playing with an 11v10. If you're understanding what the 11v10 is, what this means is that why Villa are down to 10 men is basically because our keeper is ineffectively out of the game. So actively, Villa's players will be on the press. The defenders, the midfielders and the strikers will be pressing Brighton. But because they use their keeper with the ball, they've got an 11v10. So they're always looking to find the spare man when they are pressed. And this is how that they can get out from their shape. They're a +1 player always. They're always a team with a spare man, and they're always looking to find the spare man. De Zerbi's tactics, Dunker spoke about this, is that they have playbook styles. Playbook styles which mean that when Dunk or Webster get the ball and when they are being pressed, each given scenario, so whether it's a Diaby pressing or a Watkins or a McGinn that has come into an area to press, they're fully aware of where that ball needs to go. So they are heavily schooled on where the ball needs to go in any given scenario. So they know where the ball needs to go. Every player knows where the player needs to be, and they are always in tune with one another. So that's why their style is so good. It's why they keep the ball so well. It's why when the ball goes out wide, it's so intricate, it's moving. And what happens as well is one of their forwards will drop into this area as well, which will then mean that a player can drift into that area. The fullback can advance even further. So it's a fluid, free-flowing system that works really well. And it is very impressive. And that's why they are so good. This season, they have played absolutely amazing again. And some of the things that they're doing tactically to get out of certain situations when they're under pressure has been something really impressive as well. They went to Manchester United. They made something like 7 changes to their starting lineup away at United, and they won 3-1. So they can make changes game on game that have no impact to their starting lineup whatsoever. So that has been one of the big changes from De Zerbi ball this season so far, is that the amount of changes that they make, it has no impact on their team whatsoever, because they're so in tune tactically on how they have to play, and everybody knows their roles, and they are just so good at it. So United went to a diamond with like a 4-4-2 diamond, and then in and around that game they adapted and they went wider. So they spread their shape even wider, and they were getting more joy out wide. So tactically, it was very good from De Zerbi. Something that's quite impressive so far this season with Brighton as well is that when they're getting in advanced areas, they're looking for cutbacks. So that's something that Villa have got to be aware of, that when Matoma gets into this area, watch out for the runners that are peeling off and making those cutbacks, because they've scored a lot of goals this season from making cutbacks as well. One team that they did struggle against was West Ham. And I think they sat in a little bit of a mid to low block. They played with Antonio up top. They were quite direct. They got runners off Bowen, and they posed them some problems. When Brighton come up against a team that do play in a low block and a mid block, their shape shifts even more. So what happens when teams play in a low block against Brighton, they go into a formation in a 2, and then everything comes across. And then this is their formation when they are playing against a mid block. It becomes a 2-3-5. So a 2-3-5, when they are playing against a team with a mid block, everybody's pushing forward, and then that is their formation. They're not afraid to play 5 players across that front line. They play 5 players across that front line, but you've got runners that come deeper, runners that go in behind. So it's always continually free-flowing, and it is very good to watch. They are very impressive, and they do it really well. What I'm going to do now is I'm now going to share with you what my team is to play against Brighton. So you're going to stick with me now, because I've gone kind of rogue, and I've gone rogue for a couple of reasons. So we are going to go with a 4-4-2. Now, this is my team. I'm going to shift these across. Stick with me. Why have I gone with this? I'll tell you why. So I have gone with a normal shape of 4-4-2. 4-2-2-2 as we play, and that's how we predominantly attack. Now, what I think and how I think we can beat Brighton, I think we can mix it up tactically and go with something a little bit different. And I think this formation and this system could get joy against Brighton. What I want personally from our midfield is somebody with the ball that can carry the ball, somebody that can get the ball when he has the ball at his feet, that can carry the ball and run with it. Jacob Ramsey is absolutely perfect in doing this. We beat Brighton last season at home and we played really well. And we'd got Ramsey, and Ramsey had a really good game carrying the ball. And I think against Brighton, if you set up in your generic style, your generic way of playing, and Brighton keep the ball and they entice players out of position and drag you out of position, then you'll be done. You'll be done with the ball. How I think we can pose them problems is by having somebody like Diaby who can pick up the ball and run with the ball. Now, a ball carrier against Brighton will drag players out of position. Ball carriers are so important in the modern day game is because if you drag players out of position, it creates more space for players. And we want someone like Luis to be on the ball. So if we're getting players like Diaby that are dragging players out of position, and then we've got Ramsey and we've got movement in front of that, I think Diaby is absolutely crucial in this game for me. I don't want to see Diaby alongside Watkins, because if we play Diaby alongside Watkins and we try and press, then I think the shape behind is just not going to work. And I think we really need to see something tactically different in this game. And I think Diaby can do it. I toiled with Zaniolo. I like Zaniolo. I like what I've seen. But I think he gives the ball away a little bit too frequently for a team to be against Brighton. So I think tactically, with Diaby in there, he keeps the ball more. He dribbles the ball. He looks after the ball. It allows McGinn to be back on that left-hand side. And an area where they've struggled so far this season, in the only game that they've lost, is against a player up front that can hold the ball, that you can be a little bit more direct, and then you can have someone like Watkins who can run off Duran. And I think that is going to be crucial for me in this game. I want to see Duran and Watkins up top, Duran offering more presence and occupying Duncan Webster. You know, Watkins can occupy these. Watkins can run in behind. And I think that way we get more joy. If we go with Zaniolo, then okay, I'll be fine with it. But we're not going to see anything different to what we've been seeing so far this season. Another thing that I've got to mention in this episode is that we have to be clued on defensively. There's going to be a lot of movement in here, in this pocket, in this area. Matoma drifting. We need to have McGinn, again, like we saw against Chelsea, really working and doubling up in these areas. If it's Diaby or Zaniolo, they're going to have to be helping out Luca Dean as well. But we've just got to switch on. We've got to switch on for the balls and runners going in behind. If balls are going to be going over the top, it's got to be a monumental performance from Villa tactically to be switched on for 90 plus minutes in this game. I think my team would work. I think it would get some joy. Villa fans, let me know what your thoughts are on this. But this is going to be an absolute monster tactical battle. I see a lot of goals in this game. I think it will be a 3-2. I just think there's going to be so many goals in this game. And I just hope that we are on the end of it. So that is the team that I would go with. I think it's something different, but I think it can work. I think it would offer something like hearing what Dunk was saying earlier on in the episode, their playbook style. Everybody knows what to do. Everybody knows every situation, every scenario. We've got to do something different that throws them, that offers something that they're not used to. And I really think this Duran, they won't expect that. I think Duran up top, Diaby out wide in this sort of midfield area as well can really pose a lot of problems. So that's my sort of tactical build-up, tactical analysis on this episode. Hopefully you've got some understanding. I don't expect us to press. I think when Dunk and Webster have got the ball in these areas, for me, I'd just let them have it. I'd let them have this ball here. I wouldn't press the keeper. I'd just let them get to their build-up area and I'd have a trigger. I'd have a trigger point of when they get into sort of, say, maybe sort of like this area, sort of this quarter of the pitch here, then we can press them. But if we're gonna press when their keeper's got the ball, then like I've said earlier, we're at a 10v11 and they'll look to find the spare man and we'll have some problems. So I would say I would like to see us sort of pressing and then engaging maybe when they are in sort of that area there. So when they get to that area, that's our trigger. That's where we press, and then we can come on to them that way. So we played against them really well last time at Villa Park. We are unbeaten in our 2 games under Unai Emery against Brighton. So, that's something to be really, really positive about. So hopefully you've enjoyed my little tactical debrief analysis of Brighton and you know what to watch out for. Kind of done the predicted lineup there as well. So that's the lineup that I would go with. So head to head, we've got 5 wins to their 1. We've got a good record against Brighton. They've only got 1 away win. We've got 3 home wins. This is the current form. So both teams are in decent form there. We're pretty much bang on, aren't we? They've lost 1, we've lost 1, and we've won our last 2. They've won their last 2. They are unbeaten away from home so far this season, winning 4-1 and 3-1. These are our last meetings. So we've got a 2-0, 2-1, and a 2-1. So it shows tactically we get results against Brighton. We also have here now the stats so far this season. They're scoring 3 goals a game, which is a lot. We're scoring 2, which is quite good as well. And then we're conceding 1.7, they're 1.3. Now, this was an interesting graphic that I thought I'd bring up onto the channel. This shows so far pounds per point. So for every point Chelsea have got so far, they've spent £21 million. Aston Villa have spent 2.5 million per point that we have. So I think that's a good stat, really, because you don't want to be at the top, really. You want to be at the bottom. So, you're spending less money per points that you've got. So this is cost of transfer since the start of last season. So it's the start of last season. So that's a pretty decent stat for us, to be fair. We are again in the Premier League since January 1st, so the start of the year. We are in 4th place for hitting 2 points per game, which is absolutely remarkable. If you're hitting 2 points per game, then you are doing something right. And I think, again, just want to go back to what Unai said about keeping each competition separately. We are doing fantastically well in the Premier League. We are doing remarkable. So there we go. We are doing absolutely amazing this season. Last season, we are doing very, very well. Fewest shots conceded per game in the Premier League this season. Aston Villa, again, are sitting in 4th place. We concede 11 shots, virtually 11 shots per game. And you've got Everton 11.8, Arsenal 9.8, and City 6.8. So again, we're doing well. This was the Brighton team that played against Bournemouth at home. Again, I mean, you can't really take too much into it because they rotate their team heavily each game. This was their passing network. So again, you can see the shape of the 2 at the back, and then their shape was a bit off against Bournemouth. I have to be honest, it was a bit chaotic. That's probably why they were losing, and second half they came into it heavily. But you can see there that they've got the Two at the back, you've got Gilmore, Dahoud in the middle, and then you've got heavily across that forward front line. This was their average positions from that game. So you can see that the fullbacks are bombing on 30 and 34. You've got Duncan Webster. You've got a congested midfield. And then you've got heavy sort of 4 or 5 across that front line as well. This was the Bournemouth passing network. Looks like one of them, like, blow up balloons that you get at a kid's party, doesn't it? It looks like they've made a dog out of it. But yeah, that's what that reminds me of. That was their average positions for Bournemouth. Now, this was their average position against Chelsea in the League Cup. And I think this shows their formation perfectly to what I've explained. Reverse 4-4-2. You've got the two central defenders in 3 and 29. You've got fullbacks in 30 and 2 that have pushed on to make up the midfield 4. And then you've got the 4 across the front line. This shows Brighton's formation to a T. So everything that I've explained previously, this graphic shows you that. Their danger creation comes from centrally, and you can see their shot map against Bournemouth, their XG by the minute against Bournemouth. So Bournemouth did get some joy in that second half and in the first half. And those are all of the slides that I have got for this game. So, tough game. Do I think we can win? Of course I do. And I am going to go for a 3-2 Villa win. I've said there'll be goals, and I think there'll be a lot of them. I think it'll be a bit of a mad one. I think there'll be some mad spells in this game where both teams are on top, both teams score. It's going to be frantic. It's a 12:30 kickoff. They're never easy. They're always a bit random, throws up something you don't expect. So, you know, we're going for 10 Premier League wins in a row now. Is that what we're going for in this game? I've lost track how many times we've won at home. It's a lot. So I think we're going for 10 in a row. Maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, so really looking forward to it. We're in great form in the Premier League. We're doing really well in the Premier League. We're coming up against a difficult team. It's going to be a difficult game. They're going to have a lot of the ball. Hopefully we can stop them from having a lot of the ball. Hopefully we can have a lot of the ball. And yeah, so let's talk about Everton and the Everton game. Very disappointed with how we played. I didn't think we played very well. And I think the injuries had a big impact on this game. No Ramsey, which we'd have expected to play. No Moreno, which we knew he probably wasn't going to play anyway. Longley wasn't on the bench. Chambers wasn't on the bench. And we'd got Carlos back on the bench, which was really pleasing to see. But it just looked like... I'm not sure what Emery did with McGinn at left back. That didn't work. Then Donker had a poor game. Tielemans wasn't that great either. It looked to me, without making excuses, that some of them looked tired. And I think that is quite understandable that some of them look tired. And I keep going on and I keep saying that we have to rotate the team. We have to rotate the team. These players cannot play all the games this season with the same players. It's impossible. It is impossible to do so. And even the players that came in and came off the bench, they looked tired to me. Luca Dean looked off it. Louise looked off it. Konsa looked off it a bit. Cash looked off it. Duran was a bit not really that great. Diaby was probably one of our best players. But again, we rotated, and the players that came in, yes, they didn't do well. But in my opinion, we need to rotate it. We need to rotate it even more. I've got to be honest. That's my honest vibe. And I know a lot of you will disagree, and a lot of you will think it's a cup competition. And if we'd have got through, we'd have got Burnley, we'd have been in the quarterfinal. But like I keep saying, the Premier League is the massive, massive priority for Villa this season because we have to qualify for Europe again. We have to be at the top end of the Premier League. We have to be in that conversation for Europe. I want us to be talked about by all of the pundits, and I want us to be in that conversation. And subsequently, the players need a rest. They need a break. Yeah, so far we've played 6 games, which is not a lot, but we've played the Hibs game. We've played in Thursday night. We played in Europe. We played on Sunday in a tough Premier League game. We've played Everton on Wednesday. We've then got Brighton on Saturday. We've then got Mostar on Thursday. We've then got Wolves on Sunday. We can't have Dougie Luiz in this team every single game trying to be the dictator in this team. And it's there for players like Dendoncker and Tielemans have got to step up and have got to play better. And I think Emery's hand was forced by playing McGinn at left back because he wanted to give Luca Dean a rest. But yeah, it's really frustrating that the players that are coming in aren't making a big enough difference. But I can understand where Emery's coming from with picking some of the players that he's picking because they need rest. And that's the bottom line. And unfortunately, yes, we're at the League Cup. But for me, the priority is Saturday. The priority is Saturday. And I know a lot of teams rest and a lot of teams make changes for this cup. And if I'm being honest, I can understand why. I can really understand why. If you look at the game as a whole, we kept all possession. They were feeding off scraps. They looked like they wanted it a little bit more. We made some bad mistakes. Olsen, why did he fizz that ball in so hard to Dougie Luiz? And so it's very, very frustrating, but it looked a tired performance. And it probably was always going to be a tired performance because, again, players are playing loads of games and, yes, they're athletes, but it looked tired, it looked leggy, and I've got to say, for this Mostar game next Thursday, we go full strength. So the team that plays on Saturday plays on Thursday, and that's I know that's kind of contradicting me saying full strength, but I think it showed that some of them can't play in this team. And I think Dendoncker was off it. I think Dendonker's good when he's having to come on and do a role and he's having to come on and shore a game. I think he can do that, but I don't think he can start games. But last night, I'd have preferred to see quite a few of those players not play, if I'm being brutally honest. So that's where it is. We're at the cup. It's frustrating. There's players coming in that aren't up to it. Olsen, he's not up to it. He can't play with the ball at his feet. It cost us the first goal, fizzing it in to Dougie Luiz. Second goal was a mistake from Tielemans, passing it back to Konsa. But we need players back as well. We need players back from injury. We need Ramsey back. We need Carlos back. We need them playing games. We need Moreno back. And then we can start to rotate, can't we? We can rotate because if you're saying we take Digne out, we put Moreno in, we take Zaniolo out, we put Ramsey in, we take Konsa out, we put Carlos in, we can rotate a lot better and the squad looks better for a rotation. But rotation against Everton was playing players that have literally played 3 games in the space of a week. We can't be surprised that we had a performance that looked lethargic, to look tired and looked leggy and looked off it and they looked disinterested. So, the performance mirrored the crowd in the ground as well. It was flat, it was lifeless, it was soulless. I mean, I was in the Holt end and behind me, there was literally, I don't know if any of you follow me on Twitter, you'll see the picture that I uploaded. There was literally about 10 rows behind me with not one person in K6. And there was just nobody there. It was crap. You were just sat there watching us be just off it. And I mean, even Everton, they were crap, weren't they? They were so poor. I mean, they just sit in, feed off scraps, and that was basically it. And they did enough to win. But even they didn't play very well. And it was just a poor performance. But again, am I going to lose sleep over it? Definitely not. I was scrolling through social media, having a look at what everybody was saying, and it was so like, okay, we were rubbish. But some of the stuff people come out with, it blows my mind. I've showed all those graphics of how good we're doing in 2023, and the reaction of some is just absolutely ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous, some of the reactions that people come out with. And I know everybody's entitled to their opinion, but it's literally like, I'm reading it and I'm thinking, where are we in the league? Like, are we bottom of the league? Like, is that the context that we look at things in? That reaction is so wild. So I would urge fans to prioritize where we are. And I said it in the preview, for me, and I know some fans will really disagree, and that's fair enough, but my priority this season, and I've gone on about my priority this season, Premier League, that is the priority for me. So if we continue on this trajectory that we're on, 2 points per game, we're going to be in and around 6th place all season. So for me, that's absolutely fine. So yeah, I'm annoyed we're out. I'm annoyed we lost, but the performance was just kind of there to be expected from where I was. Really, I didn't walk out the ground fuming. I just walked out thinking, well, it's just the changes and personnel and etc. And there we go. So yeah, that's just my thoughts. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode with the tactical analysis of Brighton at the start and the predicted lineup and my thoughts post Everton and where we are and what we're at and the vibe and just my honest thoughts. If you agree, great. If you disagree, fine. But those are just my thoughts on where I'm at, really. So we will have tomorrow. We have got the press conference from Emery, so I'll be doing the reaction to that. And then also tomorrow, we have the opposition preview out in the morning. So 2 episodes out tomorrow. I'm going to the under 21, 23s on Friday night as well at Bodymore. So really looking forward to that. So thank you, everybody, for the support. If you can subscribe, that would be amazing. Cheers, everybody. Up the Villa.